I am Dharma Master Thich Thong Lai. I would like to extend my warm greetings to all Vietnamese people living abroad and in the country. As a matter of fact, I don't really want to have a live stream session today because I'm doing some repairs for my system. However, I received an email from a teenage Buddhist follower, which I am holding in my hand. I recognize the urgency to have a live stream after reading this email because it affects the lives of the senders and his family. The person who sent this email to me called me as Great Master. That means his father had taken refuge with me, and he is the son of my disciple. His father also worked in a government agency. His father requested time off to attend the last rally to support the 45th president. He wanted to take a week off to arrive a few days prior to the rally so he could book a cheaper hotel and meet up with his friends. The manager refused his request and told his father if he still went, he would not have his job when he came back. After his father left and returned, he was laid off last Friday on January the 8th of 2021. His family was very dissatisfied. The son who called me Great Master just wrote an email and he wanted me to reply urgently. At that moment, he planned to go to the gun shop to buy some weapons. So this Monday, he will come to his father's work and kill those who did not respect and prosecute human rights by laying off his father. I realize that this letter will have an impact on the lives and assets of him and the manager who discriminated and suppressed human rights by laying off. Therefore, I rush to have this live stream so that I could save the lives of the young man who called me Great Master. I invite you to follow this email. Greeting, Great Master. I am not a disciple of yours, but my father is one of your followers. My father wanted to attend the rally in Washington, D.C. to support the 45th president, so he requested his boss permission to take 1 week off. He wanted to go there a few days in advance to meet up with his friends, then attend the rally, and he would return to work. The manager told him if he went to support the 45th president, he would not have a job when he returned. Just like the boss said, my father returned to work and he was laid off last Friday. I am very dissatisfied because I live in the United States of America. I am a Vietnamese American. I was born and raised here. In Vietnam, there are no human rights, no freedom, no democracy, no demonstration. As my father attended the rally, which is the constitutional rights granted by the United States, the owner of his company belongs to the Democrats who have used the wrongs to lay off my father. So I am very dissatisfied. And now I know that the 45th president of the United States couldn't file a lawsuit anywhere. All of his lawsuits were rejected. It will be impossible for me to take legal actions. So I think that I will go to the gun store and buy some AK-47 submachine guns. Then I will go inside my father's company and shoot all the dictators who use the rights to work to threaten like communists. I want to do this to ring the alarm bell, and I will then end my life. Because I see that the 45th President of the United States has surrendered. My father's future is dark, and he won't be around too long. On the other hand, I still have you, Great Master. Please tell me where I can take refuge to find freedom, a government with legislative, executive, and justice. In the past few days, I have been very depressed and hopeless. I don't want to live anymore. And I ask you to please give me an answer because I cannot talk to my father about my feelings. I wish you great health to be strong on the path of supporting the 45th President. Signed by someone who called you as Great Master, but never met you. Sincerely yours. As a spiritual leader, I advise you to be calm and respect the laws of the United States. The Constitution of the United States is perfect, but the people who are practicing the U.S. Constitution, which are the legislature and the judicial, they violated the Constitution. It is not true that the United States doesn't have a constitution. As you should know, it is near impossible to attain a human body. Your father has worked very hard to raise you, and your mother bears so much pain to give you birth. As far as I know, you are about the age of 17 or 18. If you die, your father will have another pain on top of the pain of losing freedom. The pain of losing a dear child is unbearable. So I advise you to stay calm and respect the U.S. law. If you think about how much pain the 95 million Vietnamese in the country live in suffering and without freedom for decades. You just recently feel suppressed and your father just lost his job. Please think about it again. I want to ask all of you who are listening to my live stream, please answer to this young man who calls me Great Master. Have you ever lost something most precious in the world to you? If you ever experience the loss of something most precious in the world, that could be your wife, your property, your honor, or your freedom, is happiness, you will suffer, but you will be rejoiced when you find that lost object again. For example, if your parents die one night, the doctor declares that your parents are dead, but then 15 minutes later, your parents come back to life. Your happiness will be indescribable. Or let's say if you have a child that was in an accident and the doctor told you that he is dead. However, your child came back to life again. That joy is unspeakable. The freedom and our hope in the 45th President of the United States is not only me, not only a few million Vietnamese people, but 78 million Americans who voted for the 45th President. Millions of people have long been silent and insensitive to politics. Finally, they wake up. They realize that America is violated. The U.S. Constitution is unconstitutional, and all those who work in the legislative government are treason. We are losing our freedom. That is, we are losing everything we have had since we lived in the United States of America. So the only hope now is the 45th president getting our freedom back. Since the traitorous vice president dropped the hammer to proclaim that the incumbent 45th president has lost the election, we have lost the most precious thing, and that thing is freedom, the Constitution, and human rights in the United States. However, in the next 10 days, if the 45th president of the United States gets back our losses, we will have an indescribable joy, right? Please respect the U.S. law. And the young man who called me great master, please listen to me. You are not the only one who is suffering, but there are 78 million Americans who voted for the 45th president, and I am also suffering. Your parents and many Americans are also suffering. We are Americans by neutralization, not the original Americans, but we are suffering, grieving, and upset because we see something big and precious is lost. It's our freedom. 300 million Americans who live here since their great-great-grandfather. Since the day of the founding of this country, they will not be silent and be defeated. The U.S. government has 4 or 8 years to lead the country, but the people of the United States of America, the 300 million people, are forever. The American people can elect a president, the Speaker of the House, and the judges in the court. But here is an old saying that the water can float the boat, but it can also sink the boat. So my advice is respect your life. Your father and your family are suffering because he lost his job. But you need to think deeply about this suffering. The 45th president of the United States is a millionaire with many businesses bearing his name. He has over 45 children, grandchildren, and children-in-law, and many more. He still has 10 days to use the presidential power. He is still in charge of the defense system, the military system, and the police system, and still got attacked by those crooks. If he loses his power after the next 10 days, he still has a place to live. Do his wife and children have a place to live? And will his business still be there or not? They will hunt, kill, and destroy the 45th president and his family. Even though your losses is not a small loss, but compared to the loss of the United States, to the loss of the 45th president, it is very small. Please calm down. I urge you to respect the law and believe that the U.S. Constitution is good. There are people who follow and respect the U.S. Constitution. Please don't be sad. Yesterday, when you called me and said that all the people who surrounded the presidents are traitors, except his wife and children, my son, you are only partially right. The vice president and the senators betrayed the president, even though they are Republicans. But if all the people who work with him had betrayed him, the 45th president is no longer able to sit in the White House. Remember carefully, if all people who work with him and the Defense Department are traitors, he probably would have gotten arrested on January the 6th. Instead, he used a special route from the White House to an airport we didn't know. He boarded the E-4B aircraft, which the United States had only 4 of, and named as Doomsday. The president flew to his command post in Texas. These Doomsday aircrafts only used when there is an atomic war between the U.S. and Russia or China. If the army didn't support him, then they would have arrested the president, handed him over to the traitorous vice president to hammer on the 25th Amendment and expel the 45th president already. So please calm down. Your loss and your father's loss are big, but compared to the loss of the American people and 95 million people in Vietnam, it is quite small. People like Sidney Powell, Attorney Lin Wood, General Flynn, who are just pardoned, they are not afraid of revenge from the left. They still have families and friends. Why do they dare to stand up? Because they are patriots. They put the benefits of the nation above their own personal life to condemn the wrongdoings of the Democrats. Those who sold the U.S. homeland to the Chinese communists. They prioritize the interests of the American people, and they are determined to stay behind the 45th president. From now on, you should listen to what Mr. Lin Wood, Sidney Powell, and General Flynn say. Most recently, the director of the Intelligence Defense Department went online and said that he firmly stands behind the people of the United States, behind the 45th President of the United States. He defends the U.S. Constitution, and he will support the 45th President to invoke martial law and to deplete the swamp of corrupted politicians. So please rest assured, as day goes by, more and more Americans will stand up for their rights. The Americans are well educated. They have a college degree and a very high political knowledge. So don't be foolish to do these things. It is not good for your family. And also, it is bad for our Vietnamese community. It further taints those who are fighting to protect the 45th president. I believe after listening to this talk, you can compare the loss of your father and the loss of 75 million Americans who are voting for the 45th president and the 35 million silent supporters, hundreds of millions of Americans who lost their votes and their beliefs in the freedom of speech. I understand that you are very dissatisfied because you learned in your high school that in the U.S. there is freedom of speech, freedom to speak. But now the President of the United States has been gagged by Twitter, Google, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Please calm down, because the Speaker of the House, during the chaos on January the 6th in Congress, and other congressmen have lost their laptops. When something went wrong, the riots, the gunshot, and a U.S. Air Force veteran got killed while supporting the 45th president. The Speaker of the House and the Congress members all ran away and did not know someone took some of their laptops. About 20 laptops were removed. I don't know who took the laptops. Was it the 45th president or other organization took them? However, the most important thing was that in panic, the Speaker of the House had not logged out of her account. Afterward, her computer technician informed her that all her personal data in the laptop and her cloud storage had been downloaded. So it was not surprising that she was panicking. She asked Google and Twitter to block all the information from whoever talked about supporting the 45th president. They further gagged the 45th president to prevent him from saying anything. If she is a good person who does not commit treason, nor does anything wrong, she shouldn't worry much about what was in her laptop. And when she has lost her laptop, there must be much evidence in that laptop. The next 10 days are her very miserable 10 days. She obviously knew as the traitorous vice president dropped the hammer to announce the 45th president lost. There is no need to impeach. Impeachment takes months, as we have seen in history. The first impeachment lasted several months and is still unfinished. Why impeach now when the 45th president has only 10 days left? Because the sooner he gets impeached, the less chance her laptop will be transparent. So she ordered the big techs immediately to block all the information from the president. But rest assured, American people cannot be gagged. They think if they can silence the president, they will be able to silence the people. But the American people won't leave this alone. They don't have to buy guns like you because they have guns. And there are many Americans who have multiple guns, not just one. Their patriotism is not inferior to our Vietnamese people. Vietnamese Americans have only lived here for a few decades, but they have lived here for many generations from their great-grandparents' lives. Please have a peaceful mind and respect the law. Please observe the next 10 days. From now to the 20th is the darkest 10 days of America. If I was the 45th president, I should know what to do, because if I don't do anything, then my life, my family, my assets will all be lost. We will be lost as well, but not as much as the 45th president. He has these 10 dark days ahead. As you say, if everybody betrayed him, then he no longer sits in the White House. And if the army betrayed him, then the coup on January the 6th will be successful, and many people died. The president was unable to board the E-4B and fly to Texas. As of now, the 45th president is no longer in the White House. There are many sources saying that he could be in 3 places. The first is Texas. The second is in Colorado, which has very important military bases that can withstand the atomic war or major crisis. And I forgot the last location. So, my child, the loss of your father is big, but not as big as the loss of 300 million Americans. and the loss of the Vietnamese community, because we will no longer have a place to refuge the communists. I am old, and I am already in my 70s. It is not too long that I will just also cycle into birth, age, sickness, and death. However, because of the descendants of my disciples, I have to fight so they can have their freedom. Rest assured, there are many generals of the Defense Department still standing behind the president. You also told me yesterday that you were worried that Nancy Pelosi called the generals in the Department of Defense to ask not to hand over the nuclear weapon code for the president. As far as I know, every president has a briefcase which is the key to order the attack of the atomic bomb. Only the incumbent president knows the code because he is the commander-in-chief. That code is only known by the 45th president, and he will hand it over to the 46th president. It seems that the U.S. has the largest atomic arsenal in the world. But if the elected 46th president is senile and not sure if he can remember the code to push the button, so I think the general of the Defense Department cannot be foolish enough to hand over that code. Handing over the code to him is like surrendering to all other countries that have atomic weapons in the world. So rest assured and forget the buying of guns. The manager laid off your father, and that is a big loss for your father, but not equal to the loss of the 45th president. The loss of all Vietnamese abroad, and of 95 million Vietnamese in the country, and the loss of people around the world. You should know that America is the last fortress of freedom. All descendants of the communist dictators send their children to study and live in the United States because they know that it is the happiest place on earth. In my point of view, if this outpost is defeated, then there is nowhere in the world to exercise freedom and human rights. Respectfully yours. Once again, I advise my disciple who have the same thoughts like this young man who is thinking of buying guns to shoot at those who betray the country should stop immediately. We must respect human rights and watch the 45th president. He will lose everything if he does not act in 10 darkness days. The life of Attorney Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, General Flynn, as well as those who are collaborating with the 45th president are in great danger. However, we should firmly believe, as I said before, we don't value things that are handed until they are taken away. In the next 10 days is when we will get it back. It will be an endless joy of all Vietnamese who are living in the United States. For 95 million Vietnamese in the country, for the American people, and for all other people around the globe. The world is turning their heads to the United States to see who will win and who will lose. Righteousness or the devil, respectfully. And please don't have the thought that will harm your family and harm our Vietnamese community.